Hey guys, in this video you are going to learn multiple different topics around UiPath JSON. The first topic is UiPath JSON Array. What is that UiPath JSON Array? How to use the Deserialize Json Array, right? What is this Deserialization JSON activity and JSON Array? What is the difference between these two? Right, a lot of things. UiPath JSON deserialize, UiPath JSON object, UiPath JSON string. What are all this? In this one video you are going to learn. First of all, to understand this, let me show you a demo. Why are we really learning this? For this I have opened a website, and this website has got a specific set of data. I am going to call the data using an API through the HTTP request. How to use that, everything I am going to show you. At the moment, all you need to understand, the website is going to give some JSON data as the output, and this is the JSON data. From this JSON data, if I am going to ask, can you pull the name of the person whose ID is something, for example, if I provide 8 or provide 10 or 9, it should go to this JSON data, and from this JSON data it should be able to pull the first name, or let's say entire details, any detail I want to fetch. So how do I go through this? This is a very easy one. Just stick to this video till the end. It is pretty easy, I'm telling you. Let's see the demo. Let me first of all run it, and I'm going to do it from the beginning. I'm not going to teach it over it, but I'm going to recreate it and show you. So let me first of all run this. Okay, so here it is going to prompt me and ask me, hey, enter the ID whose values you would like to fetch from the JSON, right? So the automation has started. You can see it is asking me enter the ID. So whose ID you would like me to enter? Anything, doesn't matter. Okay, for example, let's say 10 or 11. Let's say 11. Okay, let's say I'm entering the ID 11 and hitting on OK. So it should immediately pull the first name. The person with the ID 11 is George. Right? Okay, if I click on OK, it is going to give me it is going to show me the entire details. Do you see ID 11, first name, last name, and his link? So entire detail has come, and along with the first name. How am I really doing this? And all this is happening by interacting with the web page through the HTTP request. Okay, let me run it again. Okay, you got the how useful this will be. Okay, so I'm running the workflow once again. Let it prompt. Okay, it has prompt. So let me enter any number. Let's say 9 I am entering. Okay, let's say 9. So it should now show me first name as Tobias or Tobias. Okay, the person with the ID 9 is Tobias. Okay, and then it should now show me the entire details of that. So how is this happening? So let's see. Okay, it is quite easy, I'm telling you. So let's do one thing how the way I have promised. Let me first of all delete the entire sequence, and all the variables are gone. So now there is nothing. Okay, let's get started. So first thing what you do, go to this website. Let me close this website also. Let me try. So I will say the website name is request.in. Okay, request response.in. Hit on enter. So I'm going to use the API of this specific website. This specific website, okay, just scroll down, wait for a second, scroll down. So there are different API request methods. I mean, one to get the data, one is to update the data, post the data, right? Post, delete, and there are a lot many things. So here what you do, go to the get section. Okay, and here the moment you click on anything, the link is going to change. Okay, you can see the link is changing. So I'm going to keep it to the first one because I'm going to use this JSON data. Do you see? This is the JSON output which is coming by using this specific button. So click on this button and click on this link, and then got it right. I'm going very slow. So click on this get button and then click on this link. Here you have the link. Copy this link. Simple. Let's go to the UiPath Studio. So our now entire workflow has been deleted. It's completely from the scratch we are going to learn. Now the very first activity what I need is HTTP request. Now, may be possible that few people may not see this activity, right? If you do not see this activity, go to manage packages and install something called, where did I click? So click on manage packages. So tell me, so you need to install UiPath.web API.activities. Okay, you can see the moment I'm highlighting, it's showing me. So this is the package that you need. So I'll say UiPath.web. Okay, so this is the package UiPath web API dot activity. So select this, you hit on install and save it. I have already done it. So after that you will be able to find this activity. This is very important, the package that you need for dealing with UiPath JSON. Okay, UiPath dot web API activities package that you need for UiPath JSON. So drag and drop this. So we have copied that endpoint URL or the API URL. I'm going to copy paste it and hit on any blank space. Okay, and here in the request method, because I'm trying to get the data from the website into my UiPath Studio, I will say get, and I'm going to hit on preview. Okay, now you can see the entire data has been fetched, and this is a static data. I mean, this data, every time you run this, the data of this page is static. Okay, there is another API website called randomuser.me. There is a dynamic web page. So this is static data. So let's see. Here our goal is to how do I loop through this array of JSON data that I have. So what is that array and everything we are going to learn anyways. So first of all, copy this and go to a notepad. Let me delete everything. So this is the blank notepad. Now I'm going to paste it. Just paste this data, leave it as it is. Go back to your studio, hit on OK. So what I'm doing with this activity, I'm requesting data from the website by providing that endpoint. It is going to get the data into the UiPath Studio. Now this activity will have an output. Once it fetches the data from that website, it should store the output. So there is something called response content. Go here and create a variable. I'm going to create a variable just to keep it quite easy to understand. I'm going to copy the name of this activity, go to output and then response content, and here I'm going to create a variable and I'm going to paste this, and I'm going to make a little bit of modification. Let me paste it, and I will say, because you cannot have a space in the variable, HTTP request, and I'm simply saying output OP. So this is the variable which is going to store the output of HTTP request. So I'm saying HTTP request OP. This is how I'm naming the variable, just for your, so that it becomes slightly easy to remember. Okay, so okay, I did a mistake. Let me Control X. You should do first Control K, right, to create a variable, then enter this and hit on OK. So you understood. So now the variable has been created for HTTP request. Okay, now the first thing that comes to my mind, let me see the output of this, right? Okay, let's do that. If I simply say message box and place it over here, and I'm going to use the variable HTTP request output. Now how is this output is appearing? Let me show you. So if I simply debug, what would happen? Now the HTTP request is going to run, it is going to fetch the data and it is going to store into this variable and show me the output. So now you look at this, the entire output has come, but it's not very human readable, right? Are you able to read this? You can't read it. I mean, you can read it. I mean, you have to stress your eyes to literally find out what the data is. It's not very readable, not in a readable format. So what is happening? What is the, if I ask you, what is the data type of HTTP request output? So you should always go to the variable, and this is the variable we have created, and the data type is simple, string. It's a string. It's fetching the data and keeping in a string variable. This much is clear. Now what if, because it's not readable, I would like to make it slightly readable, so I have to convert it into a JSON format so that it becomes quite readable, right? Human readable format. So let me, you understood this. Now the next activity that I'm going to use is Deserialize Json. Okay, and for this deserialization requires the output of the previous activity, which is HTTP request, which is a string variable. So I am going to use the HTTP request variable. Okay, so this HTTP request variable has been entered. Now let's create a variable for this activity as well. So just to keep it simple, I'm going to copy this, go to the properties, go to the JSON object. I'll create a variable, paste this, remove the space. You can give any name, okay? Just for understanding purpose, I'm keeping it like this so that it makes quite easy to understand. And I'm going to say OP. OP means output, and hit on enter. So this is my variable JSON OP, which is output. Deserialize Json output. Okay, so this is the output of this activity. Now this variable that we have created, let's see the data type of this variable. So what is the data type of this variable? J object. That means from string it will convert that output to a JSON format or a JSON object. Object means it's a data type. It's again a data type. So it will convert into JSON format. Now I will be interested, or you will be interested to see the output of this. So let's copy paste this message box, drag it below this, and instead of this one, let me write what is the output of this? Deserialize JSON output, OP. Okay, so this is the, so let's see what is the difference between the first output and the second output. Now let's debug it. So what is the difference? So it will come in a proper format. So look at this, the first message box, when it executes, the format, if you remember, it was quite clumsy. And the second, see, the first output from this message box, it has come, which is quite clumsy, right? Now if I click on OK, now this second message box is going to execute, and now you can see the second output is coming in a very human readable format. So it is quite easy to read, right? Page 2, total 12, everything is quite readable. Okay, so you understood why we are using the JSON UiPath JSON deserialize activity, right? Or deserialize JSON activity. Why we are using? You got an example. Very good. Now let's stop it here. Now let me, so you have understood, let me delete the message boxes, they are not required. Now what I'm going to do, once I got this output of deserialize JSON, let's see, let's use if I ask you, can you pull the value of this property? So these are called properties, or anything before the colon mark, right? These are called JSON property, and this is called JSON value. Similar way, this is JSON property, JSON value. So anything before the colon will be JSON property, and anything inside that will be a JSON value. Okay, so JSON property, JSON value. If I say, can you pull what is the value for the property total? So for that, how will you write the expression? It's actually very simple. All you have to do, go to the activity, let's drag and drop the message box, and here I'm going to write deserialize JSON output, which is the output of this activity. And here all I have to do, in the parenthesis, I have to simply say, within the double quote, I have to write whatever that I would like to fetch. So the name of it is total, so I'm going to simply say total. Let me open it in a bigger window, and I'm going to say total. So if I do this, what will I see? So if I run this, the output of this will be 12. So it is going to fetch me from the entire JSON file. It is going to fetch me the specific data just by putting a parenthesis and writing the JSON property name. So you can see it has pulled 12. What will happen if I write data? Let's see that. Let's go back to the studio, and instead of total, I am going to write data. So let's select this, and I'm going to simply replace this total with data. Now what would happen? So if you see, look at this data is an array, right? So we are talking about deserialize JSON array. I'm going to show you that this is an array. This is not a simple property. This JSON property has got a value to it, right? It has got a value, but this JSON property has got multiple values, so they are kept inside an array. So if you see, this array starts here and the array ends here, and inside this there are multiple blocks of data. So this is one block, this is another block, this is another block, this is another block, like that. There are some 5 to 6 blocks are there, right? So one JSON property with multiple blocks of data, so arrays of data. So how do I pull it? So if I write a data here, what's going to happen? So let me run this. So what is the output do you think would appear? So it's going to should show me in all the data inside this square bracket, right? Inside this whatever data is there, it should show me all entire data. Okay, so you can see it has shown me the entire data starting from this square bracket and ending till this square bracket. If you see id 12, it's ending here, it's ending with, so entire data is appearing if I write that expression. So it's an array. Now the question is, if somebody asks you, if there is an input dialog box where the user is entering id 12 or id 10 or id 9, whatever he enters, based on that you should fetch the details. How will you do it? There has to be some expression written, right? Okay, we'll get on to that. So this much you have understood. What is the output of when you write within the parenthesis? This Deserialize Json output is the output of this one. In the parenthesis you are writing data, then what the output is coming. So this much is understood. Very good. Now let me delete this message box because that is for learning purpose I have kept. Because it's coming, the data is coming in the array format. So what I'm going to do, because it's coming in the array format, the first thing I would like to do, one second, I think the net connection has been lost. Let me put it back. Okay, so yeah, so the entire array format was coming. So for this, to deal with such array data, right, to deal with the array data, what we will do, I am going to use an activity called Deserialize Json Array. Okay, Deserialize Json Array. Now here the same thing what we have written, the output of Deserialize Json activity, which is JSON OP or output, and in the bracket I am simply going to say data. Okay, because this activity accepts only the string variable or the string data, I am going to convert this to .toString. So what I am doing is I am giving the entire string data, right, entire array of JSON array. I am providing the entire JSON array and feeding into this. Getting it? So what would be the output? I am going to show you. So I am feeding the entire JSON array into this. So you remember, right, how the JSON array was looking? If not, let me use the message box on top of this. So you can compare what exactly this activity is going to do. So I'm going to copy and paste it over here. Okay, so let's see this output and let's see this output. And so this output, again, let us store it into a variable. Again, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the entire name, okay, copy this, go to the property, and in the output, so I will say this is a JSON array, right? So Control K, create this, remove the space, and then at the end I'm going to say AOP, which is output. Okay, hit on enter. So this is my JSON array output, Deserialize JSON array output for this activity. So let's see how this activity is appearing actually. Okay, so let me use a message box below this just to see this output, and I'm going to say Deserialize JSON array output. Getting it? Now let's debug it. If you go to debug window, I should allow this slow step. Okay, slow step. Okay, so that we know which activity is executing, right? Debug. Okay, so let's see. Now let's compare the output of this one JSON output data, and once you enter this entire array into the Deserialize JSON array, what is the output coming? Let's see it. Okay, now look at this. The message box output will appear now. So this is entire data has come. Okay, entire data has come. Now what exactly this is doing? So click on OK. Now let's see the output of the message box. So again, both are looking alike, right? I mean, if you see, both the data is the same. There is no difference. But why did I use this activity then? Let me tell you why did I use this activity. So what happened in the deserialize JSON array? If you go to the variable of this array is a J array. So JSON object you understood, which is the entire thing, right? Entire thing is coming. This is going to convert into array. Array means what? If I say in a text, if I write 1 2 3 4 5 6, so this is the entire string. If I separate them 1, then 2, then 3 and 4 and keep it in array, so that becomes an array. And the same thing is happening here. So entire data is again split and kept it array format. So that means I can run a for each loop. If I run the for each loop, you will understand. So let me use a for each loop immediately. So let me delete this message box. Keep it simple and go to the activity. Let's use a for each loop. Okay, so I am going to feed the output of this activity. What is the output of this activity? Deserialize JSON array output, right? So let's feed that deserialize JSON array output. I'm keeping the entire name so that it becomes easy to remember, right? Easy to understand. So deserialize JSON array output activity I have fed. Now if you look at the type argument of this, in the new design, it is earlier in the classic design, the old studio, we have to manually feed the data, but here if you see the property, the type argument will be auto fed. The moment I'm using a variable, it takes the data type of that and auto feeds it. So it has auto feed the data news of JSON J token, because we are dealing, each object is a JSON token or JSON object, what you call. Okay, so now the data will be fed. So you saw the data was appearing like this, right? From this array till the end it was appearing. So this is one block, this is another block, this is another block, this is another block, like that entire block is now inside the for each loop. So let's see how this output is coming so that you get a better understanding. Let me use a message box, and if I write item, what am I expecting? I am expecting each block to be shown to me, right? So if I debug this, what would happen? Now instead of the entire block which was appearing, now with the for each loop is in place, it is going to show me one block at a time, one block at a time, one block at a time. So you understood the use of UiPath Deserialize Json array. It's breaking that, it's splitting that array into one block. See, the first block has come. Let me keep the notepad open so you can see the first data has come. Okay, so ID 7. Okay, if I click on OK, now the ID 8 will come. So it is looping through the entire set. Okay, so it is converting the JSON array object into, into small bytes of or blocks of data. So these are each data, right, inside the array. So it's breaking it. So ID 10 has come, right? Likewise it will continue. Okay, so let me stop it. So you understood it is going to loop through and going to show the data. Okay, very good. Now I had asked you, what if I would like to see, let's say I would like to see the ID number. I would like to see only the ID number. I don't want entire data. I want the ID number. So how will you write the expression? For that, all you have to do, because the entire, at a time, this entire data is coming. So if I, in the parenthesis, if I simply write ID, then the value will come. So it's very simple. So I'm going to say ID. In double quote, I'm going to simply say ID. So what would happen by this? Each value is going to appear. So let's debug it. Let me show you. So likewise, how I am doing, breaking the entire problem into small chunks. So that way it will be easy for you to learn and remember how this one is functioning. That is important, right? And then after that you can build your own logic if you know how it is working. Okay, now what is the output I am expecting? Only 7. Last time it was showing the entire data. Now it is showing one data. Likewise 7, 8, whatever the data IDs are there, right? 7, then it should show me 8 now. Then 9, see 8 has come. So likewise it will continue. Okay. So initially I had a condition. Only when user enters some data, accordingly it should pull some other data. Okay. So how to do that? So for that, let me show you. This is actually easy. A simple thing. You must have got an answer how to do that. Okay, so all I am going to do, I am going to implement another activity called if activity here. If, okay, and inside the if I am going to write, so let's first of all put the input dialog box, input dialog box, okay, and here I am going to say enter the id, enter the id, done, and the output should be stored in a variable called, let's say, user input. Hit on enter. Okay, so it's going to store the output in the user input. So here in the if block, all I have to say item, in the bracket I will say id, okay, dot toString you have to write, okay, dot toString, otherwise it won't convert. So dot toString equals to user input. That's the expression. So it will match, only when it matches then it will get inside. Okay, then what would I like to see? I would like to see, let's say I would like to see the first name, I would like to see the first name, or let's say I would like to see his email address, let's say. So all I have to do, I have to copy this entire thing, email, or you can type it, and then here let's use the message box. I had the message box, right? Let me drag and drop inside this. So here instead of id I want to see the, if that id matches then I want to see the email. If you need entire data, the format remains the same. Okay, you want to transfer it to a data table or something like that, you can always do it. So item dot, okay, I put a double quote 2 times, okay, email. Okay, so let's run it and see how this entire workflow is working. So you have got a lot of ideas now about the UiPath Deserialize Json Array, right? UiPath Deserialize JSON. What are the difference between these two, right? How do you fetch specific detail? How do you fetch the JSON? What is a JSON object? What is a JSON string? Everything you have understood. Now enter id. So tell me, which id shall I enter? Okay, let's say I want to enter 8. So if I say 8, hit on enter, so it should pull me this email address, right? Okay, let's see. Okay, it is inside the if condition. Okay, so you can see the output has come. Lindsay, if you see Lindsay, the exact output has come. Getting it? So this is how we can write the logic. So with this, I'm going to stop it here. So you must have understood the all the things that we would like to cover. UiPath JSON array, Deserialize Json Array UiPath, Deserialize Json in UiPath, UiPath JSON Deserialize. I mean, both are two different terms, again in the same meaning. UiPath JSON object and UiPath JSON string. Okay, with and all the examples you have got in this video. So let me know if you have any questions. Do comment, and do not forget to like the video and do subscribe. In case you are a new viewer, please do subscribe to our channel. We have got ample of UiPath contents and explain in an easy way for you to remember for a very long time and help you in your learning journey. So thank you guys. We are going to meet once again in our next content. Till then, take care. Bye bye.